Welcome everyone. Happy Saturday. Happy pre-Mother's Day. My name is Tracey Miller and I am a health coach and a yoga instructor. And I have been running wellness programs for about at least 10 years, focusing on nutrition and mindfulness and cooking and yoga. And what I have found over the last 10 years is that for myself and others is that we all pretty much know what is good for us, and to eat well and to exercise and eat healthy foods, and we know kind of what's not good for us, right? Fast food and candy bars and junk food, and all in moderation, right? But we still continue to struggle with taking care of our bodies, and we probably know what we want to do and what we should do, but we're not always good at doing it, right? And we all know that when we get depressed or stressed, the first thing that we do is to try and numb ourselves. Maybe we sit in front of the TV and binge watch, soap operas. Maybe we grab a glass of wine or a tub of ice cream or a box of cookies or chips, and we just sit there and we kind of numb ourselves. And that makes us feel good in the short term, right? But then we go back to that cycle of beating ourselves up. To me, it just also feels very disempowering, like I'm not in control of my thoughts, my actions. And it just doesn't feel good. It makes us feel like we're at the mercy of something bigger than ourselves, right? And unfortunately, research shows that many women are very dissatisfied with their body, right? We actually start questioning our bodies at a very early age. They say really in sixth grade is when we start judging, comparing ourselves. For men, it's actually, men are not as hard on themselves, on their body. It's amazing. I remember sitting in a session once with like 20 women and one man for a program that I was running. And we were going to go around the circle, and I said, everyone just say something that they love about their body. And all the women were hemming and hawing, and they were trying to think of something that they love about their body, like, oh, okay, well, if I have to say something, I'll say something. And this one man, and he was probably in his late 60s, 70s, he said, what's there not to love about my body, right? So, I think as women, we can be very hard on our bodies. Unfortunately, cultural conditioning really linked to how other people see us. And unfortunately, much of what we think about our body is linked to measurements and comparisons and judgments. We weigh ourselves for that perfect weight. We count our calories, which can really feel like we're depriving ourselves. And we compare ourselves. We're too big, we're too small, we're too tall, we're too short. We just want to change something about us. Unfortunately, then, that we really get stuck. That's like those thoughts, that mindset is hardwired into our brain. And so if we're not conscious of it, it will continue to run like a broken record in our heads. So I'm going to go ahead and just make sure everybody's muted, just to make sure I think so. Okay, awesome. So how many people, you can just put in the chat box, relate to that, kind of judging our bodies, being hard on our bodies, kind of feeling like we need to get on another diet, maybe not so mindful, we go to the binge watching. Anybody have that issue? If you don't, that is awesome. Totally agree. Okay, absolutely. Okay. So I think hopefully as we age, we're more forgiving with our body, but it really is sad when you think about it, that in sixth grade, girls are starting to judge and begrudge their body. Yeah, eating numb is a biggie right now, exactly. So what I have come to really want to do is to really help women redefine what self-care is. And when we think about self-care in a more loving way, we want to think about that it comes from within, right? So when we feel good about ourselves, we will make more positive decisions to take good care of ourselves. and we're more compassionate to ourselves, we're more likely to make those positive decisions. And part of that is that we really need to understand what our self-care story is. And I define our self-care story as that narrative that really, those thoughts and emotions and that attitude that have been driving us since we were in 6th grade. And it's that narrative that makes us feel stuck, like, I'm not good at dieting, or I mean, I'm always going to be this way. I have no control over who I am or what I think or how I look or how I feel. And it can really make us feel stuck. But the more conscious we are of these thoughts, the more aware we are of them, the more opportunity we have to change them. So one of the things that I've been doing a lot over the last couple of years with my clients is to really doing a lot of journaling, because the more we can get this stuff out there and see it, the more that we can kind of get a handle on it and change it. And as I mentioned, our brain is really hardwired to play that same record over and over and over again. 95% of our thoughts are basically hardwired, and we have like almost no control over them. So we have to really be present and conscious of those thoughts to really start rewiring our brain. So the goal would be we want to interrupt these thoughts and create a new recording that's more loving, more compassionate, and more help us be more self-aware of what we are thinking about ourselves, because those thoughts are actually driving those decisions about what we eat and how we take care of ourselves, whether we want to get on that exercise bike or, eat more healthy foods, right? Because if we're kind of stuck in that narrative, it makes it difficult for us to change things. So what I wanted to do is just go ahead and do just a little breathing out exercise to help us be more present. And then I'm gonna have you guys write a couple things down. So if you have a pen and paper handy, that would be great. But go ahead and let's all just take in a nice deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth to just really release. In through our nose and release. And I want you to just start feeling your shoulders relax, feeling more grounded in your body. Feel your body relax. And I want you to think a little bit about what your self-care story narrative is, right? And maybe it's thinking back to a moment, a defining moment about maybe someone saying something to you about your body, or when you were younger. Maybe it's feeling ashamed about something. Maybe it's just feeling you were at a vulnerable time and someone didn't support you. And how did that make you feel physically? And just really taking in that emotion and how it feels physically in your body. And what feelings come up? Is it anxiety, fear, vulnerability, being hurt? Or maybe something that's positive. Just think about that self-care story, and what are some of the words that come to mind when you think about your self-care story? And go ahead and you can write those down. So what are some words that just come to the top of your head? Are they affirming words? Is it about resistance? Is it about fear? Is it about numbness, stress? Is it a reactiveness that when you feel stressed, turn off? And go ahead and just write those down, those words, and how you feel, what those emotions are. How would you describe those emotions? Now, One of the things that happens when we kind of create that narrative, that self-care story, it can sometimes drive our actions without us really even knowing it. But one thing that I think is really useful when we are trying to rewrite our self-care story, change that narrative, is to really come back to our why, right? Our why, the why that drives us to want to be healthy and to take care of our body. So taking a couple deep breaths, just thinking, reflecting about why do you want to have a healthy body? Why do you want to take care of your body? Why is it important to you? It might be because you have young kids and you want to be healthy for them. It might be because of the work you do. It might be because you want to just love yourself. What is your why? Why is it important for you to take good care of your body? Just take a minute and just write that down. And I really want you to think about the emotions that come up, even when you just think about your why. What are the physical emotions that come up when you think about being healthy and why it's important to you? And if anyone wants to share what their why is, feel free to drop that in the chat, or if you want to go ahead and just raise your hand or turn on your video. Love to hear maybe what your why is. Why is it important for you to feel healthy, be healthy? And if you're struggling with what that why is, then you could share that too. All right. No one's up for sharing. All right, so now that you have your why, I want you to realize that your why is kind of that light post. So your why is that light post when you, or that lighthouse when you are, feeling like you want to go and eat the box of cookies or numb yourself out. Your why is an opportunity for you to pause and realize, and come back to your why, right? Whether it is for taking care of your kids, loving yourself, honoring your body, whatever it is. We're going to come back to your why in a minute, but I just want you to really, if you have some time and you weren't able to kind of figure that out today, I would love for you to just take some time over the weekend to just really think about what your why is. The other thing that's important as we were talking about these things, the emotions that came up, right? So sometimes when we feel stressed or anxious, our body goes into fight and flight mode, right? What's also interesting is when we criticize ourselves, right? When we judge ourselves, when we're harsh on ourselves, our body also goes into fight or flight mode. Okay, I've got some Y's here, share. Sorry, I'm just, what that sound is. So really interesting. So when we're stressed, our body goes into fight or flight mode. When we criticize or judge ourselves, our bodies go into fight or flight mode. And that's our body's natural defense system. But what happens when we do that? When we go into that fight or flight mode, our mind turns off. We can't think. We need to numb ourselves. For me, when I'm in that fight or flight mode, I just can't think. I'm not creative. I can't write. I just immediately want to grab that first thing that I can eat, and I just react out of stress, right? So what's also interesting is that when we practice things like compassion, self-compassion, and gratitude, those are also physical feelings, right? So when we are in a state of gratitude, we produce a happy hormone that makes us feel good, right? It brings us a little bit of happiness and joy. When we practice self-compassion, just like gratitude, we get that same physical feeling. So I want you to just think about that, because a lot of people think that our mind is in control, but really the research shows that our body is in control. So when we immediately feel stress or anxiety, that it comes from our physical body, right? So being more aware and in tune with our state, our emotion, how our body is feeling, the more that we can start to like re-navigate and kind of move away from that fight or flight and move more toward like self-compassion and gratitude and kindness and things like that. So I want to talk a little bit about what self-compassion is. Kristen Neff is a researcher who runs an institute and has done thousands of studies on self-compassion. So I'm using her definition of self-compassion. She talks about self-compassion as being kind to yourself instead of judging yourself, and also having an openness and willingness to recognize when you're not being compassionate to yourself and asking yourself, what do I need right now? So it's really being kind to yourself and kind of listening to, tuning in instead of that harsh judgment or criticism that we might feel. Next, she says that recognizing self-compassion is recognizing that you're not alone. And I just think this is so important, because everyone is going through the same thing: stress, anxiety, trying to figure out what to eat, how to eat it, how to take care of our bodies. And that human suffering, unfortunately, is part of the human condition, right? And yoga really was created, evolved over these years to really help us address human suffering, right? To help us feel more in control and empowered in our bodies and in our minds. So really important to know that when you're going through something, that you are not alone. And then the last is that we need to be mindful, right? When we are compassionate, we are more mindful, so we can be present, so we can see ourselves and realize that the thoughts and even the feelings that we're having are not us. Those are things that are happening to us, but they are not us. And I just think that's really important, because sometimes we just feel stuck and we can't change, and we feel like, well, this is who I am and this is it. Well, no, that's not true. So when we are more self-compassionate, we compare less, we judge less, we're less about measuring things and comparing ourselves with other, and kind of feeling more loving kindness towards ourselves and towards others, right? They actually say that people tend to be, it's easier for people to be kind to other people rather than themselves, right? So we practice more compassion towards others than we do ourselves. So it's really important to understand that when we're going through that moment. So I wanted to just go ahead and do one more exercise. Just close your eyes and take a minute to think of a time when you just felt stressed. And that's easy to do these days with everything going on. And thinking about how your body felt, how your body feels when you are stressed. And what you might turn to when you feel that anxiety or stress. So for you, is it maybe turning to just sit in front of the TV and just numb yourself out? Is it grabbing a box of cookies? Is it having a glass of wine? Is it, just being anxious and upset? What do you tend to do when you feel stressed and anxious? Maybe we get more reactive, right? Someone comes up to us and we're stressed and anxious. We are more reactive, less responsive, not always as kind as we could be. And there's a wonderful exercise or process that Tara Brach recommends, and it's called RAIN. It's an acronym. And what I wanted you to do, as you think about the thing that might be stressing you out, and how your body feels during that time and the judgments that come up for yourself or others. We're going to walk through this acronym. So it's RAIN. So the first thing is R, recognize. Recognize your thoughts, your feelings, and emotions, right? Try and describe how you're feeling. That visceral feeling in your body. Is it anxiety, stress, vulnerability, fear? So give it a word or two. Next is to really allow yourself to detach from that feeling. Not judge it, just kind of know that it's there, but take that visceral feeling away from it. See it as something that's there, but not part of you. The next thing is to really investigate, why am I feeling this way? And so many times we just react because we're reacting how we've reacted for the last 20, 30, 40 years, however old we are. And that comes from that hard wiring that we get in our subconscious. So how can you understand better why you're feeling that way? So kind of deconstructing how you feel. Sometimes you're not even sure. Something's triggered something in your body and your mind hasn't even figured out why you're feeling that way. So you really want to investigate. And after you start to understand a little bit where this is coming from, you want to practice nurturing. So that's the N. And showing self-compassion. So sending yourself some love and understanding for why you're feeling this way, how it's making you feel, acknowledging it, recognizing it. And again, recognizing that it's something that you're experiencing, but it's not you. And taking a minute, go ahead and put your hands on your heart and send yourself some love and kindness and compassion. And as you do that, again, just notice how your body relaxes, shoulders relax, maybe expressing some gratitude for even just being able to acknowledge something in the moment and to loving yourself. And noticing again how your body starts to change. And just taking in that feeling. Okay, so just to reiterate that, the Tara Brach thing is recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. And I'll go ahead and put something in the comment box with her name. I wanted to go back to some of the feelings, the whys that people mentioned. My why is I want to be able to travel freely and have time and financial freedom to accomplish my dreams without worrying about my medical bills. That's a wonderful why. Medical issues that run in the family. I don't want this to be my story. I don't want to be limited by the ailments of my body. You know, it's so interesting. And I really love Deepak Chopra. And when we talk about practicing self-compassion and love and kindness towards our body, he says, food is information for your cells, right? But also your thoughts affect you at your cellular level, right? So all those thoughts. So just practicing loving and kindness is good for our health, right? It produces that I want to say oxytocin, that's not the right word, but it produces that happy hormone that makes us feel good about our bodies. So that is a wonderful thing. Your why to come back to is just to reaffirm that you want your body to be happy and to be healthy. And you can't go in by saying my body is not, there's something wrong with my body. It's all about my body in this present moment is healthy, is happy, is nurtured. I want to feel alive and vibrant. Yes, right? So the choices that we make, sometimes we have to realize that those short-term things that we do that make us feel good in the moment aren't going to necessarily make us feel alive and vibrant in the long term. And then living without chronic illness. And again, remembering that your thoughts are fuel for yourselves. And Deepak Chopra too, so interesting that, you know, everyone thinks that we are genetically so predisposed to disease, but he says only 5% of our genes make us destined for disease. So 95% of our genes are really just about how we talk to our bodies, how we fuel our bodies, how we feed our bodies. And when we're practicing self-compassion and self-kindness, it makes us, you know, makes us love our bodies more. So thank you guys for sharing that. I really do really appreciate that. I love this, to be comfortable in my own skin. And that's coming back to our true self. So showing compassion is an opportunity for us to really come back to our true self. So just to kind of wind down, some things that you can do when you are trying to be more self-compassionate, when you are in that moment and you're trying to make the healthiest choice possible. You can pause and breathe, really relaxing your body to get away from that fight or flight mode into that rest and digest mode. And just that act of breathing slow, taking in big, deep belly breaths will really calm your nervous system and relax your body. The next thing is to be compassionate, to practice that radical self-compassion, and that goes through the RAIN, to recognize, acknowledge, investigate, and nurture. Another thing I think is really important is to be clear on your why, right? Because your why is going to help you. And I went through periods where I was just literally, I wrote down my why and carried it around in my wallet with me, because it just helped me feel grounded and make positive choices throughout the day. And then lastly, one thing that's really interesting, and you might hear about this in things like the law of attraction and manifesting, but creating momentum. So every positive thing that you do for your body, every little thing makes you feel a little bit better, right? And when you start to do one small thing, it can make you want to do another positive thing for your body and another, right? And when you're continually saying to your body, I'm healthy, I'm nurtured, I'm happy, I'm taking good care of myself, you are creating that momentum and manifesting those things into your life, versus that judgment and comparison, all that stuff that just makes us feel so heavy. So really just creating that momentum, and just realizing every little thing you do, even every little thought you think that brings you more to the positive, to the healthier choices, is going to lead you in that direction. So thank you guys so much for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, I will mention that I do have a book out called This Is Me, and I don't know if you've signed up. I assume I've got your email, although I think I had some technical problems, but it's on my website now at www.traceymiller.co, and it's 20% off for Mother's Day. But it's just a tool for you to help you discover your self-care story, kind of build that food and mood connection, and kind of create a vision for your health. So anyway, I hope this was useful for you guys. Thank you so much. I hope you have a lovely day and celebrate Mother's Day, and just take really good care of your bodies during this chaotic and crazy time, and just wish you good health and being well. Thank you guys. Good luck with the next session.